Good morning. You're watching Business World Live. I'm Jess De Los Santos. It's the start of a new trading day, but first, let's go straight to our top story. The United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, or UNESCAP, expects Philippine exports to recover this year. That's following a pandemic induced dip in 2020. UNESCAP says it is optimistic about the country's exports as it forecasts a growth of 12.8% for the sector. For 2022, UNESCAP expects exports to rise by as much as 17.2%. Philippine exports dropped in 2020 as lockdowns and stringent mobility curbs hampered business and consumer activity. This year, exports have been steadily recovering. That's on the back of demand from countries that have reopened their economies. However, this recovery is slowed by global supply chain bottlenecks and container shortages. In the 10 months to October, the country's exported goods rose by 16.1%, a reversal from the 12.5% decline recorded in the same period in 2020. UNESCAP says the shift to digitalization would intensify and redefine trade in the medium and long term, and the Philippines, being an important exporter of IT related businesses, is among the countries that have a high potential to enjoy the benefits of accelerated digital shift. The death toll from Typhoon Odette has climbed to almost 390 over the weekend. Data from the NDRRMC shows that some 388 have died due to the typhoon. 60 people remain missing in Odette's aftermath, while over 1,000 people were injured during its onslaught. The NDRRMC is likewise reporting damage to agriculture worth 3.9 billion pesos, but the Agriculture Department is reporting a much higher value of agricultural damage and losses due to debt. That's to the tune of 4.3 billion pesos. As of today, the DA is still conducting an assessment of the extent of damage and losses brought by Typhoon Odette in the agri-fisheries sector. Okay, let's jumpstart the last trading week of the year. Let's see how the PSEI is doing so far. 9 minutes into the trading session here. As you can see here, the main index is starting the day in the red, down close to, down really, but muted gain losses here for the PSEI at 7,178. Earlier in the day, it was in the green, but again swung back to losses here at 7,178. Recall, of course, that the PSCI did for a majority of the sessions last week, fluctuating 0.9% on Friday to cap Christmas Eve at 7,181. RCBC chief economist Mike Ricafort said that a profit taking last week was partly brought about by Omicron-driven surge in Europe, adding to worries of slower economic recovery. Christina Ulang of First Metro Investment says that there's still room for gains here as infrastructure rebuilding and government spending picks up in Typhoon Odette hit areas. Aniceto Pangan of Diversified Securities, however, sees that for the most part of the week, things might still be volatile for the market at below average volume turnover with a possible window dressing to the year end. And as you can see right now, that volatility at least being felt the first part of Monday's session here with the index down close to 0.1% to 7,177. Let's see how some specific blue chips are doing so far today. You have LT Group here leading advancers up 0.8%. Jollibee likewise also in the green as well as BPI. However, on the flip side here, you have decliners Converge for one, losing close to 2.4%. Megaworld and Metro Bank down by close to 1.6%. But there are some specific stocks that we have to keep an eye on for today. Particularly, you have a owned stocks here, Century Pacific Foods and Shakey's again. That's after both firms snapped up League of Sardines and Potato Corner, respectively. Both deals will cover assets and intellectual property rights. We have yet to get full details of the deals with prices to be determined at a later date. But so far today, you have Century at least starting the day in the green, represented by this white line right here, up by 8%. If I'm not mistaken, let's check that again. That's at least up 1.9% for Century Foods, 27 pesos and 40 centavos a piece. Shakey's, on the other hand, is also on the upside here, now at 10 pesos and 60 centavos a share. Now, also, let's check in on Solar Philippines. It's after it has commenced the construction of its Nueva Ecija plant. That's meant to be the largest solar project in Southeast Asia. Proceeds from its 2.7 billion peso IPO will be funding the first 50 megawatts of the facility, which has a target capacity of 500 megawatts. The goal is for the first phase to deliver power to the grid by 2022. Looking at Solar Philippines so far today, it's up by 5.2% to 1 peso and 21 centavos a piece. Lastly, some IPO news here. You have CTS Global Equity eyeing a 1.4 billion peso IPO. That's for 1.375 billion common shares priced at 1 peso each. That's going to finance the expansion of their global trading operations as well as the scaling of its account management and for other general corporate purposes. Expected offer period is going to be from February 21st to 28th, with listing set on the PSE's SME board for March 9th. Here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. The OCTA research insists there's no need to panic about the rising cases in Metro Manila. In an interview with Radio 5, OCTA's Guido David explained that this uptick also happened last year due to the holiday season. David also clarified that COVID vaccinations help in preventing people from having severe COVID symptoms, but they don't really help in preventing people from catching COVID-19. David added that the uptrend was caused by the rising cases in the city of Manila, which could be attributed to increased mobility in the area. Still, the experts said that it's too early to tell if the uptrend will last. He advised the public to wait until the first week of January to see if there's a bigger issue causing the increased cases in the metro. Now, the NGCP says it has restored 85% of the transmission lines in Visayas and Mindanao. That's as of December 25. The grid company had initially reported that 95 transmission lines were rendered inoperational by Typhoon Odette. That means 81 of the affected lines across Visayas and Mindanao have been restored. Meanwhile, the budget department said it has released an initial 1 billion pesos in assistance for LGUs affected by Typhoon Odette. President Duterte earlier said the government would spend 10 billion pesos for typhoon recovery efforts. Now, a number of families chose to celebrate their Christmas al fresco. Many headed to parks on Christmas Day as restrictions this holiday season remain at their most relaxed since the start of the pandemic. JC Cosico with a story.
For most Filipino families this Christmas, the Padilla family for one attended Christmas Day Masses at the St. Pancratius Chapel in Paco Park, Manila.
Before sa family, magtipon-tipon, talagang magsisimba muna.
Some parents like Nes Custodio tagged their children along.
So naghanap kami ng simbahan na medyo konti ang tao. So we decided dito sa Paco Park at saka al fresco para kumbaga safe eh.
Over at the Rizal Park, long lines welcomed guests at the entrance. Inside Luneta, kids were seen playing. Many also took photos with a giant Christmas tree and the Rizal Monument. 66-year-old Udette Sumagaysay from Imus, Cavite, meanwhile enjoyed watching the fountain.
Maganda. Nakaka-relax. Dito ang gusto namin kasi bihira lang kami makarating dito.
Many families brought meals and had picnic at Park. There were also those who came all the way from the province, just like the Noliedo family from Infanta, Quezon.
First time lang namin kami nagpunta rito eh. Okay. First time lang kami. Tapos nagkakuha nilang pamilya na dito mag-Christmas.
For vendors, this is the opportunity to be able to bounce back from their losses during lockdowns.
Siyempre, nakabalik tayo, at least kumikita tayo, hindi gaya ng dati na parang nag-iisip ka kung nung papakain mo sa pamilya mo.
Only 3,000 visitors are allowed to enter the Rizal Park at a time for physical distancing. Those aged 18 and below must be accompanied by their parent or guardian. People are allowed to visit regardless of vaccination status from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. For News 5, JC Cosico, we are One News.
Of course, the holidays are not yet over. Now, are you considering spending New Year's Day at the Enchanted Kingdom in Laguna? Laila Pangilinan tells us what to expect in this report.
To be jolly, and what could be more fun than bringing the family together at theme parks such as the Enchanted Kingdom in Laguna. Before one can enjoy the rides, the waiting game begins at the long lines going to the parking lot. One family that had long yearned for the magic of theme parks didn't mind. The Tanggins traveled 12 hours from Bicol.
It's time for enjoyment. Kaya kahit napepending po yung pagpasok namin, kailangan namin tiisin para mag-enjoy.
To avoid the hassle, the EK management encourages guests to book online. Fully vaccinated individuals who will purchase ride-all-you-can tickets can avail of a 199 peso discount. Under Alert Level 2, the theme park, which has the safety seal, is now allowed to operate at 80% venue capacity. Pre-pandemic, the theme park can accommodate as much as 18,000 guests per day. For this year's Christmas, the EK management said they were expecting only 3,000 to 5,000 visitors, but the number of guests ballooned to 9,000. After all, this will be the first Christmas since the pandemic that children are allowed to go outdoors.
Hindi namin ine-expect kasi syempre with the pandemic and everyone is still, parang nagdadalawang isip to go out of their way. But however, as you can see, with all those happy faces right now.
To avoid the crowd in the park's food court, this family who came all the way from Nueva Ecija opted for a picnic at the parking area.
Inagahan namin kasi in-anticipate na namin na maraming pupunta.
Food stalls were also facing what they called good problems as their supplies kept selling out. The influx of visitors meant they will be required to report for work regularly.
Okay po kasi diretso na po yung pasok namin, magkakatrabaho na po ulit.
Visitors were also treated to a fireworks display.
Teary-eyed kami nung nakita namin yung fireworks. It's really something na parang it was a sign of moving forward, of hope for everyone.
Another fireworks display is scheduled on January 1 and 2. For News 5, Laila Pangilinan, we are One News.
And that's a first look into the business day this Monday, December 27, 2021. Catch Businessworld Live for the market close at 3:15 p.m. today. I'm Jess De Los Santos and we are One News. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines.